You know that feeling, right? The one where you're just staring at this like endless list of things to do. Your inbox is overflowing. It feels like everything's coming at you all at once.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like you're spinning plates.
Exactly. Trying to juggle everything, feeling super busy, but then at the end of the day, you kind of think, did I actually? Did I do anything important? That feeling.
hmm
Yeah.
It's pretty common these days, that sense of overwhelm, almost a default setting for a lot of us. So much information, so many opportunities. It's easy to get lost trying to do it all.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We're digging into some really powerful stuff from the book The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. It offers a really different way to look at cutting through that chaos.
It really does.
Yeah.
The main idea they put forward is honestly surprisingly simple, but it feels kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it? That focusing intensely on just one thing at a time, that's the real key to getting extraordinary results.
Yeah, like really big results, not just at work, but anywhere you want to make a real impact. So that's our mission for this deep dive, to untack that simple truth from these sources. We want to figure out why it sounds so simple but feels so hard to actually do. Like understand these lies the authors talk about, the things that trip us up.
hmm The myths we believe about success.
And then, most importantly, see how applying this one thing idea can genuinely change how you approach, well, pretty much everything. We've gone through the material, pulled out the key insights to give you a clear path. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. It really starts with this foundational idea boiled down into one powerful question.
Sorry?
What's the one thing such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary?
Huh. That question, it sounds almost too basic, doesn't it?
It does. But the sources show just how deep it goes. There's this story about Gary Keller.
Mhm.
It really illustrates it. A mentor told him, basically, to transform your company, you need to find and hire these 14 specific people.
14 people. Okay.
And it just hit him. He realized he wasn't focused enough. So he made this huge move, stepped down as CEO.
Wow, really?
Yeah, to make finding those specific people his absolute singular focus, his one thing.
That's a big commitment. What happened?
The results were, well, dramatic. Within 3 years, the company just exploded, averaging like 40% growth year over year, went from regional to international. It was clear that narrowed focus brought extraordinary success.
So when he zeroed in, things took off.
Exactly. And he saw the same pattern when coaching top performers. If he gave them a long list of things to do, they'd, do most of them.
Right. Check things off the list.
Yeah, but the results just, okay,
Right.
busy, but not breakthrough.
Hmm.
So almost out of frustration, he started cutting the list down. Okay, just do these 3 things, maybe just these 2, until finally he just asked that one question. What's the one thing you can do this week such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary?
And that was a difference maker.
That's when results went through the roof. It became crystal clear. Huge success came from intense narrowed focus. Average results came from scattered focus. The light bulb really went on.
Okay, so it's not about cramming more in, it's about, what did they call it? Going small.
Precisely. Going small. We all get the same 24 hours.
Yeah.
So why do some people achieve so much more? The answer isn't necessarily working harder or longer. It's that they intentionally go small. They figure out the most important thing and pour their energy into that.
And they use that domino analogy, which is pretty powerful. One little domino knocking over the next.
Right, building momentum. But the part that really blew my mind from the sources was the physics behind it. This physicist, Lauren Whitehead, discovered back in '83 that a single domino can actually knock over another domino that's 50% larger.
Wait, 50% bigger each time.
50% bigger. Think about that compounding. The sources paint this like unbelievable picture. Start with a tiny 2-inch domino.
Okay.
By the 10th domino in that chain reaction,
Yeah.
it's almost as tall as an NFL quarterback.
No way.
Yeah? The 18th, it's rivaling the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The 23rd domino would be taller than the Eiffel Tower.
That's insane.
And get this, the 31st domino would tower over Mount Everest.
Wow. Okay, that really puts it in perspective. So starting small, but with the right small thing.
That's the key. The right first domino. Success isn't usually one giant leap. It's built sequentially. One thing, then the next, then the next. It reminds me of that Og Mandino quote they share. Something like,
It is those who concentrate on but one thing at a time who advance in this world.
that's the one. Yeah. And you see this principle playing out everywhere when you look at it, like really successful people and companies.
Like companies. KFC, right. Their one thing was always that chicken recipe.
Exactly. Or Coors, building their whole initial business on just one beer. Intel, microprocessors.
Yeah.
Starbucks, coffee.
Google, search, which then enabled their whole ad business.
Right, even Star Wars. The merchandise is huge, obviously, but the movies are the one thing, because without them, none of the other stuff happens. It's about finding that core driver.
And it's not just companies, it's people, too. The sources make a great point. Nobody's really self-made, are they?
Not really, no. Walt Disney had his brother Roy. Oprah credits her dad, and later Jeffrey Jacobs, for pushing her to start her own thing. The Beatles.
George Martin, the fifth Beatle.
Yeah, his musical genius filled in the gaps. If you look closely, there's often that one person who made a critical difference.
And it applies to skills and passion, too, right? Like that painter, Pat Matthews.
Doing one painting a day. That was his path to mastery. Or Angelo Morico, building this huge Italian tour business purely from his passion for Italy. Gilberto Habone, the runner, using that focus to overcome trauma and become an amazing coach. Passion fuels the practice that builds the skill.
They even map out Bill Gates' life like that, a sequence of one things. Passion for computers leads to programming skill, connects him with Paul Allen, leads to that letter, and eventually focusing his philanthropy, one domino after another.
A whole life built sequentially.
So, okay, the power of focusing seems undeniable. The proof is there. But here's the catch the sources point out. We live in this world bursting with opportunity, which sounds great, but it's also just overwhelming.
Totally. It feels like we should be able to do more, but we end up spread too thin.
Right. We kind of sense maybe doing less could lead to more, but figuring out what less. Where do you even start? The one thing idea is simple, but actually living it is tough.
And the reason it's tough, the sources argue, is because of these lies of success. These ideas we all kind of absorb that sound true, but they actually mislead us.
Like truthiness, that Stephen Colbert term they use. Feels right, but isn't.
Exactly, like the myths about the frog boiling slowly or the fish stinking from the head down. They sound plausible, we repeat them, but they're not really accurate, or at least they're misleading.
And these truthy beliefs about success become our defaults, steering us away from the power of focusing on one thing. The sources list 6 big ones.
Okay, lie #1, everything matters equally.
Lie #2, multitasking.
Lie #3, a disciplined life.
Lie #3, a disciplined life.
Lie #4, willpower is always on will call.
Lie #5, a balanced life.
And lie #6, big is bad. These 6, they're insidious because they operate unconsciously a lot of the time. If we want those extraordinary results, we have to kind of face these lies head on.
Right, and replace them with the truth. Okay, let's tackle them. Lie #1, everything matters equally.
Yeah, the sources are really blunt about this one. It's just flat out untrue. When it comes to results, things are never equal. Some actions produce vastly more impact than others.
That's the whole 80-20 idea, right? Pareto's principle.
Exactly. Vilfredo Pareto noticed 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the people. Then Joseph Juran applied it to quality control, finding a small number of causes led to most of the problems.
But the key isn't the exact numbers, 80-20.
No, don't get hung up on the numbers. It could be 90-10, 70-30. The core truth is inequality. Juran's big insight was the vital few versus the trivial many. Not everything matters equally. Applying that to your to-do list, that changes it from just a list of stuff to do into a success list focused on the vital few.
They even talk about extreme Pareto, like finding the one idea out of 100, just 1% driving the results, thinking big but then going super small to find the leverage point.
And it works personally, too. Gary Keller's guitar story, Limited Time, asks Eric Johnson what to do. Johnson says, practice scales. But instead of trying to learn all the scales,
he focused on just one.
Just the minor blues scale, mastered that one thing, and suddenly a whole world of classic rock opened up. One thing, done well, unlocked so much more.
Okay, so the takeaways are, go small, focus on being productive, not just busy, go extreme, narrow it down, say no to other stuff until the main thing's done, and don't just play the check off the list game. Prioritize ruthlessly.
Right, which leads nicely into lie #2, multitasking. The sources really pull no punches here. Multitasking isn't making you efficient, it's actually making you less effective.
There's that quote, right? Multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time.
Exactly. From Steve Uzzell. It's funny, the term originally came from computers in the 60s, describing how one CPU would switch between tasks really fast, not do them truly simultaneously.
Oh, right, so even computers just switch.
They switch very quickly. And that's what our brains do too. We can do some things at once, like walking and talking, if they use different parts of the brain. But focus. Intense concentration. We cannot do two demanding things at the exact same time.
Our attention just bounces back and forth. Monkey mind, like the poet said.
Yeah, Billy Collins. We feel like we're juggling effectively, but really we're just constantly interrupting ourselves. And there's a real cost.
Time lost, right. Errors.
Huge costs.
Yeah.
Lost time just from the switching estimates are up to 28% of the workday. Plus, more mistakes, poor decisions because you're constantly distracted, favoring new info over potentially better old info. And it's stressful. That little dopamine hit from switching tasks could even feel addictive, but it's ultimately counterproductive for deep work.
So the truth is, just don't try to multitask important stuff. Focus.
Pretty much. Eliminate distractions, dedicate time.
Okay, lie #3. A disciplined life. This is the idea that successful people are these models of perfect discipline, 204/7.
Yeah, and the sources say that's a myth. You don't need more discipline than you probably already have. You just need to manage it better, direct it strategically.
How so?
Success isn't about being disciplined all the time in everything. It's more like using discipline for a short sprint just long enough and focused enough to build a habit.
So discipline gets the habit started, and then the habit takes over.
Exactly. Discipline is the training wheels.
Yeah.
Habit is riding the bike. People who seem super disciplined, they've usually just installed a few really powerful habits. Nobody is perfectly disciplined all day long. Success comes from doing the right thing habitually, not doing everything right through sheer willpower.
The Michael Phelps example is great here. Kid who struggled with focus, channels that into swimming, builds the habit through discipline, becomes the most decorated Olympian.
Right. That focused discipline built the habit that changed everything. And when you build the right habit, it actually makes life easier. It frees you up, gives you license to be less disciplined elsewhere because the most important stuff is running on autopilot.
Okay, but how long does that take? To build a habit, it's not 21 days, is it?
No, that 21-day thing is largely a myth. The sources cite a 2009 study from University College London. It found the average was actually 66 days for a behavior to become automatic, and the range was huge, from 18 days up to 254.
Wow, 66 days average. So you need to stick with it much longer than most people think.
Definitely. Give it enough time. And that same research found this cool halo effect. When students built one good habit, like exercise,
Other good things happen automatically.
Yeah. less stress, better spending habits, healthier eating, less smoking or drinking, even fewer dirty dishes. Doing the most important thing regularly really does seem to make everything else easier.
So be a person of powerful habits using selected discipline. Build one habit at a time and give it enough time. Think 66 days, not 21.
Got it. Okay, lie #4. Willpower is always on will call. The idea that willpower is just always there when you need it.
Which sounds nice, but yeah, doesn't feel true.
It's not, according to the sources. Willpower is finite. It's a limited resource that gets depleted throughout the day. Success isn't about having endless willpower. It's about managing it smartly. Timing is crucial.
That marshmallow test, right. The kids who could wait.
Walter Mischel's classic study. Yeah, the kids who could delay gratification, who used their willpower to wait for the bigger reward. They had much better outcomes years later. SAT scores, handling stress, lower rates of obesity and addiction. Willpower pays off, but it takes effort.
And that effort tires it out, like a muscle.
Exactly like a muscle, or like gas in your car. Every decision, every temptation resisted uses up some of that fuel. Even small things, like remembering extra numbers, can drain it, and it doesn't refill instantly.
So you need to refuel, like literally.
Literally. Good food complex carbs, protein fuels your brain and supports willpower. You are what you eat is very real here.
And when willpower is low, we fall back on defaults. That judge study was fascinating.
The Israeli parole judges. Incredible, wasn't it? Chances of parole were highest right after a break when willpower was refreshed. By the end of the session, almost zero. The mental fatigue led them to the default no. Makes you wonder about your own defaults when you're tired.
Definitely. So willpower needs managing. The key strategy is timing.
Timing your task. Do your one thing, your most important work, first thing in the day when your willpower is strongest, before all the little decisions and distractions start chipping away at it.
Because so many things drain it, right? New behaviors, distractions, temptations, suppressing emotions, doing stuff you don't like.
It leaks out everywhere if you're not protecting it. So the big idea is, don't spread willpower thin, save it for what matters most. Monitor your fuel, eat well, and time your task, do the one thing first.
Okay, lie #5. A balanced life. This one feels controversial because work-life balance is preached everywhere.
It is. But the sources argue that striving for equal time for everything, that's middle mismanagement. It leads to mediocrity because extraordinary results require unequal focus.
How did this whole balance idea even start?
Well, historically, work was life for most people. Farming, hunting. Then came specialization, industrialization, fights over work hours, more dual-income families, technology blurring the lines. The term work-life balance really took off in the mid-'80s.
But focusing on a one thing requires imbalance, doesn't it? You have to say a big yes to one thing.
Which means saying no to lots of other things, at least for a while.
Yeah.
The authors call this counterbalancing, not imbalance.
Yep.
You go all in on your priority, then you consciously counterbalance to tend to other essential areas, like health or key relationships, but not trying to keep everything perfectly equal all the time.
They use that analogy, the rubber versus glass balls.
Yeah, James Patterson's idea. Work is often a rubber ball. Drop it, it bounces back.
Yeah.
But family, health, friends, integrity, those are glass balls. Drop them, and they can shatter. You have to be incredibly careful about what you neglect when you're juggling priorities.
And you can't get time back. Those stories about missed family time or unfulfilled retirement dreams, they hit home. Trying to perfectly balance everything might actually stop you from achieving anything truly great.
That's the argument. Okay, last lie. Why #6, big is bad.
The fear of aiming too high.
Yeah, or the belief that thinking big is somehow arrogant or unrealistic. The sources call it megaphobia. Fearing big success actually leads people to shrink their thinking, to aim lower, or even sabotage themselves when they get close.
It's like thinking the world is flat, right? Putting limits on yourself based on fear, not reality. We don't actually know our ultimate limits.
Exactly, so why pick a low ceiling? Thinking big is essential for extraordinary results. Your thoughts shape your actions determine your outcomes. You have to think big to act big.
Those examples are so powerful. Sabir Bhatia with Hotmail, Arthur Guinness's 9,000-year lease.
J.K. Rowling's seeing all 7 books, Sam Walton's planning, Candace Lightner with MAD saving hundreds of thousands of lives, Ryan Kreljack starting Ryan's Well as a kid. These people thought big, acted on it, and achieved incredible things.
And the sources say that on the way to achieving big things, you grow too.
Absolutely. What seemed huge at the start looks smaller later because you've become bigger, more skilled, more capable. It connects to Carol Dweck's mindset work too. Growth mindset thinks big. Fixed mindset sets limits. And mindsets can be changed, like habits. Maybe 66 days?
Maybe. So don't fear big. Fear mediocrity. Fear not living fully. And don't fear failure either.
Right. Failure is just part of the journey, part of learning. You often feel your way to success. The call is think big, aim high, act bold. Don't let small thinking limit your life.
Okay, so we've debunked the lies. Now, how do we actually do this? The sources talk about ditching the lies and embracing this focused productivity.
Yeah, Gary Keller shares his own story. Trying to live by the lies made him sick and miserable. It was only when he consciously decided to do less, to get unclenched, that he became more successful and felt better.
So the one thing is the simple truth. But it takes courage, right, to go against the grain.
Definitely. As George Andrews is quoted, achieving what others only dream of often means taking a different path, doing things differently. It takes courage to go small when everyone else says do more.
So how do you find it? Your one thing. Andrew Carnegie said, put your eggs in one basket, but which basket?
That's where the focusing question comes in. It's their core tool. Deceptively simple, but powerful. It acts like both a map for the big picture and a compass for your very next step.
How does it do that?
It forces you to decide what's truly necessary, not just possible or doable. It points you to that first domino. The structure is key. Pick a category like my job, my health, my finances. Then ask, what's the one thing I could do time frame, like right now, today, this week, such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary?
You ask it for different areas and different time frames.
Exactly. For your spiritual life, key relationships, personal growth. And you ask it repeatedly, what's my one thing right now to achieve my one thing for today, which helps my one thing for this week, and so on, all the way up to your someday goal, and then back down. It connects the present moment to the ultimate vision.
And you can get help with this.
Absolutely. Share your one thing with others. Ask them the question to help them find theirs. Making a habit of asking this question, that alone can be a game changer.
Okay, so you find your one thing using the question, then the sources talk about a rhythm: purpose, priority, productivity.
Right. They're all linked. Purpose drives your priority. Priority dictates your productivity. Personal productivity fuels business profit, if that's your goal.
First, live with purpose. Why is that so important?
Purpose gives meaning beyond just getting stuff done. It fuels you. Think of Scrooge. His initial purpose: money, priorities, save money, use people, productivity, actions focused on hoarding wealth,
Until his purpose changed.
right? Purpose became people. Priority shifted to using money to save people. Productivity became actions to help others. Purpose changed everything.
And purpose connects to money too, like knowing when you have enough.
Exactly. Their definition of financially wealthy is having enough money to fund your purpose without working. Without purpose, how do you know what enough is? And true happiness, they argue, comes from pursuing that purpose, not just accumulating more stuff. It's the journey towards fulfillment. Purpose gives you the why to keep going when things get tough.
Okay, purpose first. Then live by priority. This is about connecting goals over time.
Yeah. Goal setting to the now. Start with your big someday goal. Then ask, what's the one thing for the next 5 years? For this year, this month, this week, today. And finally, the crucial one. What's the one thing I need to do right now? It connects today's action directly to your biggest goals.
Thinking big, but going small right now.
Precisely. And research backs this up. Visualizing the process, the steps involved, works better than just visualizing the outcome. It forces you to think strategically.
And writing goals down makes a difference.
It's a big difference. That Matthews study found people who wrote down goals were almost 40% more likely to achieve them. So writing down your one thing, your priority for now, is vital.
Purpose, priority. And then live for productivity. This is where the action happens.
This is making it real. The key tool here is time blocking. Literally scheduling an appointment with yourself for your one thing. Put it on your calendar and protect it.
Like Jerry Seinfeld's don't break the chain thing. Write jokes every day. Put an X on the calendar.
Exactly. Simple, focus on the one thing, builds momentum. Productive people aren't necessarily working more hours. They're incredibly focused during the hours they do work.
And the recommendation is 4 hours a day, minimum.
4 hours minimum for your one thing. That's what's needed for extraordinary results. They mentioned Stephen King blocks 4 hours every morning for writing. Is he Stephen King because he does this? Probably.
That's a serious commitment. Does it work in, like, a busy office?
They share an example of an executive assistant who started time blocking. Yeah, it caused ripples at first, but people adapted within a week, and her productivity soared. The idea is, be a maker in the morning, your one thing, be a manager in the afternoon, everything else. If it's not scheduled, it probably won't happen consistently.
And you need to schedule planning time, too.
Yep, block time regularly, weekly, monthly, annually to review your goals, check progress, and set your next one thing priorities. And work on event time, not clock time. Like the dairy farmer you finish when the job, your one thing block, is done. Okay, so to make time blocking work and achieve those results, the sources say you need 3 core commitments.
Commitments. Okay, what are they?
First, commit to be your best, which means embracing mastery. It's not about reaching perfection, but constantly striving, learning, improving. Like Alex Van Halen, still practicing guitar for hours daily, even after huge success.
That connects to the deliberate practice idea, doesn't it? Erickson's research.
Exactly. Elite performers across fields put in around 10,000 hours of focused, deliberate practice by age 20. That's roughly 4 hours a day, 250 days a year. Sound familiar? It's not just raw talent, it's dedicated effort over time. Time blocking enables that.
And mastery builds on itself. Makes other things easier.
Yeah, it creates a platform. Like Jigoro Kano, Judo's founder, wanting to be buried in his white belt, always a learner. The journey never ends. Mastery and time blocking are partners.
Okay, commitment 1, mastery. What's second?
Commit to move from E to P, from entrepreneurial to purposeful. The E approach relies on natural talent, enthusiasm. You get started, have some success, but then you hit a ceiling because you're just doing what comes naturally.
And the P approach.
That's the purposeful approach. When people hit a ceiling, they don't just try harder at the same thing. They pause, analyze, look for new models, better tools, different strategies. They're willing to learn and change how they do things to break through. Like finding the chainsaw when the axe isn't enough. It might feel unnatural at first, but it's necessary for breakthroughs.
So be willing to change your approach, not just your effort level. Got it. Third commitment.
Commit to live the accountability cycle. This is about taking full ownership of the link between your actions and your results. No excuses.
Owning it completely. That sounds hard, but powerful.
It's arguably the most powerful thing. Without accountability, challenges will derail you. Accountable people see setbacks as feedback, they persevere, they focus on solutions, not blame. They achieve results others only dream about because they take responsibility.
It's that author versus victim choice they talk about.
Exactly. Are you writing your story, author, or are you just along for the ride, blaming circumstances victim.
Okay.
Accountability is a choice, an attitude you can cultivate into a habit. It starts with seeking and owning reality so you can act effectively.
And having an accountability partner helps massively.
Hugely. A coach, a mentor, a peer. Remember the Matthews study follow-up. Writing goals plus sending progress reports to someone. That made people 76% more likely to achieve them. It nearly doubled the effectiveness.
Wow. And Erickson found elite performers almost always have coaches, too.
Right. Coaches help with mastery, the E to P shift, and accountability. They're crucial.
So the three commitments, mastery, moving from E to P, and accountability. You need all three.
To really make the one thing work, yes. But even then, there are dangers. Things that can steal your focus. The sources call them the four thieves.
Thieves of productivity. Okay, who's thief? #1.
The inability to say no. Remember the Good Samaritan experiment. Even seminary students heading to talk about the Good Samaritan blew past someone needing help if they felt rushed. Time pressure made them abandon their priority. If they can lose focus, we all can.
So saying yes to too many things kills your focus on the one thing.
Exactly. Every yes is a NO to something else. You have to know what you're giving up. Succeeding big means going small, which means saying NO a lot. Steve Jobs was famous for the products Apple didn't make. Focusing is saying no.
But saying no is hard. We want to be helpful.
It is hard. We worry about hurting feelings or seeming selfish. But you can learn to say no respectfully, maybe suggest alternatives. Seth Godin has good advice on that. Or create systems like FAQs to help others without sacrificing your core time block. The author's 3-foot rule: does this request connect to my one thing? If not, probably a no. It's your one thing or it's everything else.
Okay, protect your focus by saying no. Thief. #2.
Fear of chaos. When you intensely focus on one thing, other stuff will pile up temporarily. Emails, chores, side projects. Things might feel messy.
And that feels bad. Makes you want to stop focusing and clean up the mess.
Right. That feeling of chaos is often a sign you're prioritizing correctly, but it's uncomfortable. The pressure builds. You need to plan schedule time later for everything else, and accept that a bit of temporary chaos is okay, even necessary, while you tackle the big domino.
Makes sense. #3.
Poor health habits. This is huge. Your energy is your productivity fuel. If you neglect sleep, eat poorly, don't move. You're draining your own battery. You won't have the energy or focus for your one thing.
So basic stuff. Sleep, eat right, exercise.
The daily energy plan they suggest. 1. Prioritize sleep. 2. Eat well, regularly. 3. Exercise for energy. 4. Make time for reflection renewal. Being sleep deprived is like being drunk, functionally. You have to protect your sleep. If you think you're too busy to sleep, you've fundamentally misunderstood the whole concept. Good health fuels success.
Crucial. Okay, the final thief. #4.
An environment that doesn't support your goals. Your environment is basically who you hang out with and where you spend your time.
People in place. How do people affect it?
Massively. Who you associate with influences your standards, your habits, your well-being. They mentioned studies on obesity spreading through social networks. If your friend becomes obese, your risk goes way up. The wrong people can distract you, discourage you, pull you away from your goals. Oprah's advice: surround yourself only with people who are going to lift you higher. Choose your circle wisely.
And the physical place matters too.
Definitely. If your workspace is chaotic or full of temptations, it makes focusing incredibly hard. Like trying to diet while working in a candy store. Your environment needs to make doing your one thing easier, not harder.
So guard against saying yes too much, fearing chaos, neglecting health, and unsupportive environments.
Got it. And the sources wrap up with this powerful call to, basically, live large, think bigger, remove those self-imposed limits.
How do they suggest doing that?
Try this exercise.
Right.
Write down your current income. Now double or triple it. Look at your current actions. Will they realistically get you there in 5 years? If not, what would? Double the goal again. Keep pushing until your vision requires truly different actions. Apply that to any area: health, relationships, impact. Imagine a bigger life to start creating one.
It reminds me of that Mark Twain quote they used: explore, dream, discover, sail away from the safe harbor.
Exactly. And it connects to living a life with fewer regrets. The advice from people near the end: live fully, purposefully, give your all. That deep happiness comes from effort towards something meaningful. Focusing on your one thing helps build that kind of life.
And that final story, the puzzle.
Oh yeah, the father and son with the map puzzle. Dad tears it up, thinks it'll take hours. Son puts it together fast. How? He saw a picture of a man on the back pieces. He just focused on putting the man together.
And when the man was right, The world fell into place.
Perfect analogy, isn't it? Put yourself together, your purpose, priorities, productivity, focused on your one thing, and your world organizes around that. Success really is an inside job.
Wow. Okay, so recapping. Extraordinary results come from that surprisingly simple truth. Focus sequentially on your one thing.
Find it with the focusing question, embrace it by ditching those 6 lies, commit to mastery, E to P thinking, and accountability, and then protect that focus from the 4 Ths.
And this applies everywhere, right? Not just
All right.
work. Your health, relationships, personal goals. Use those focusing questions for specific areas.
Absolutely. So maybe the final thought to leave you with, building on that puzzle story, success is an inside job. Put yourself together and your world falls into place. What does putting yourself together mean for you right now?
That is definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.